I've been playing the Madden 23 closed beta for about a week now, and I want to give you a preview so you know what to expect when the full game comes out. First and foremost, the defense is tuned up. Across the board, the defense just feels way better, and it feels like you stand a chance versus all the high-powered offenses in Madden. Particularly, the blitz is tuned up. Since the beta's come out, they have tuned it down ever so slightly, but the defensive ends are still wreaking havoc, and your time to throw is drastically reduced. I'm talking a 3-second count maybe. So 1, 2, 3, boom, you're sacked, boom, you're hit. So your decision making is going to have to come a lot quicker on the offensive side of the ball. The other part that plays into this increased blitz is quarterback scrambling is going to be way less effective in Madden 23. Escape artist is now an X factor, not an ability. And you're no longer going to have quarterbacks outrun these athletic defensive ends. They're going to catch up to you. They're going to sack you. They're going to hit you. It's going to be much harder to dance around the backfield and throw the ball around. So that is pretty much gone. I've also found that pinching the defensive line is super effective versus inside runs. And then pre-tackling is gone. So if you remember in Madden 22, a player could dive ahead of time and they would animate and boom, you're getting tackled when you had a wide open gap to go run through. Part of the defense being tuned up is the brand new physics system, which they're calling Field Sense. Field Sense basically makes it so the animations are no longer happening predetermined. It's all going to happen independent. So every player will have its own types of animations that can interact with another player, and one is going to interact, and that will trigger the animations. Previously, if I knew I was going to get a certain animation on a jump ball, or if I knew I was going to juke a certain way, I could almost predict what was going to happen next. And that is gone from Madden 23. The other great thing about this is cheesy plays. A lot of Madden players, I don't like the one-play touchdowns, the cheesy plays. Those are almost gone as well here because the reduced time to throw, that's not going to work. And the zones are much improved. Deep zones now work and aren't just guarding grass. The defensive logic across the board is way up. So you're not having defenders stand around just doing nothing. They're going to guard something. They're going to continue to pursue the ball when the play is still happening. It's much improved. And it's hard to throw those deep bomb passes when you have a quarterback that's getting pressured right away. You're going to have to anticipate that throw, read the coverage properly, and then make your throw. Another big improvement is the effectiveness of coverage. So tight coverage is now way more effective than in 22. You can almost predict if someone had just a little bit of room, they could throw that low ball and they can just hit the secure catch, and it's an easy catch. In 23, the pass deflections are way up. Defenders aren't just sitting there watching a ball go by their ear, watching a ball go over their arm. They're actively trying to get their hands on the ball, and they're knocking the pass down. They're knocking the pass to teammates. You're going to have a lot more deflections, and you're going to have a lot more tip pass interceptions, and it's going to be a much more satisfying experience from the defensive side. The defense is also smarter in the way they animate. You're not going to get all these broken tackles. I remember last season, I would have a good spin move, a good juke move, and then I'd stall. I'd break like 5 tackles in that whole sequence. That's not happening. Not only is your player getting tireder, but the setups for these skill moves are much harder to execute. And me doing a skill move is not going to automatically make the player in front of me animate a certain way and give me a free broken tackle. It's not happening this one. The final thing on defense, which I absolutely love, is that you don't need to do 30 adjustments to just stand a chance on defense. Last year, I felt anytime I called a play, I was doing over top, underneath. I'm doing contain. I'm spreading the line. I'm pinching the line. I'm moving two different defenders into different types of zones. It's like, this is ridiculous. Now your base play is much better. The adjustments are way reduced, and the adjustments are really only going to come into play a lot of times right now, at least in the beta, for situational times. So whether the goal line or fourth down, it's going to be much different than in previous years where you had to do 30 adjustments to just stand a chance. And then usering it is way up. So if you are able to user your middle linebacker or your safety, it's going to make a big difference in how you can slow down the offense and control the middle of the field and just make the offensive player think harder when it comes to running their offense. It's going to be a little bit more work for the offense to do. You can't just call PA crosses every time and hope for it to work. It's not going to happen in Madden 23. Now moving to the offense. The offense, it's not it's not all gloom and doom. The offense is actually really fun because of with the new pass system, you can put the ball on a dime that you never could. I can back shoulder. I can put the ball exactly where I wanted to with my receivers coming out of the break. It's a lot of fun to use the new pass system, and I'll go into that a little further on another video here, but the pass system's a ton of fun. The ball travels slightly slower through the air. So with Gunslinger, you'd be able to whip the ball right away. It feels like that's tuned down. It feels like the ball is traveling through the air slower, and there's actually a time frame from when you release the ball to when it hits your receiver's hands. That makes a difference, and you're going to have to anticipate throws a lot more. So low throws, you're no longer able to just spam them. They're going to be way less effective. You're going to have to wait for your receiver to come out the break. It's going to be a lot harder to control and keep accurate. It's going to be situational. I will say high throws are a ton of fun in 23 so far. I've been able to hit tight ends up top. I've been able to hit big receivers up top. It feels like I can throw high passes to big body tight ends and receivers and not so much to a smaller receiver like a slot receiver. That feels appropriate finally. And then it feels like the speed difference between a burner and a guy who is a little bit more sturdy is definitely a difference there, and it feels pretty evident. So I like the difference so far that I'm feeling on receivers and what their strengths are and how Madden's highlighting their strengths and then not letting them go outside of that box so much. So you're not seeing me getting one-handed grabs over 3 defenders from a slot receiver. It's just not happening. The other thing that's really fun about the offense is the new 360 control function. Now, what that basically means is when you hold the left trigger, you're going to be able to stick your foot in the ground and make cuts in any direction. It's like you're finally able to have appropriately good movement without feeling like you're on skates. You can also do this without the left trigger. It's not going to be as precise, but your left thumbstick movement is so much better in this game than it has ever been. And it actually allows you to navigate on a run without holding the left trigger or without feeling like you move a half an inch and you're going to move over 6 yards. Like, it's so much better. I can't even describe to you how much more control you have when it comes to running the ball or having the ball in your hands. It's amazing. The next thing with this whole new field sense features and the physics-based features is these skill moves are much harder to pull off. I mentioned that earlier in the video, but it's much harder to pull off a juke move, a stiff arm, a spin move, because you're going to have to set it up way earlier and you're going to have to anticipate what your defender's doing. It's not a last-second decision to do a juke move and it's going to work. You're going to have to kind of anticipate your defender and make the appropriate move. Now, there's still abilities like jukebox and things like that in the game, but you're going to see much better animations as far as the success rate of skill moves. Madden's also put in 3,500 plus new animations with this new physics system. So let's go right to the special teams. Special teams sometimes feels like the forgotten part of football. The kicking meter in the game is the same, but that weird delay lag that's kind of been there for the last couple of years is gone, which is great because I feel like sometimes you'd kick and you'd be like, oh, I hit that at the right time, but you'd still miss the kick. So annoying, but they finally seem to fix that, which is great. Kickoffs are the same, but there's a different camera angle going on. So there's a couple different options that you can get from a camera angle when the kickoff happens. So it doesn't seem as repetitive. Sky kicks there are some nice rebuttals to that. So you can actually get a nice return off in Madden 23 by using the 360 controls and by navigating the open holes. It's much more navigatable than in previous Maddens, where you see a hole, all of a sudden it's gone. Holes actually open up and you can actually hit them. It's still going to be tricky to return a touchdown, but you'll be able to gain extra yards after the kick a little bit easier, it seems so far early on. But that's a nice counter to a sky kick. I know everyone has different feelings about sky kicks. The other thing I want to mention is punt returns. So I felt like the last few years in Madden, when you have a punt return, you run into, like, I hit stick them when they don't call a fair catch, and it wouldn't matter. With this new physics system, my 220-pound linebacker running full speed into a stationary punt returner is going to matter and will cause fumbles. So that's one of the best things about this new system is it takes into account speed, weight, player statistics, all that stuff is and where they're getting hit. All that stuff takes into account. So if I'm running full speed, I'm gonna get that fumble probably more often than in previous years, which is great. And I've experienced that so far, and that's been a ton of fun. Like, call the fair catch or I'm gonna hit stick you. And then of course you can't forget the visuals. The visuals, there's slight upgrades. The graphics are slightly better. The player models look a little bit better. The uniforms look a little slimmer, not as bulky. There's a nice new touchdown graphic that pops up whenever you score a touchdown. There's some more celebrations. I have not seen the gritty yet. I've been asked about it a few times, but I haven't seen it yet. Of course, the menus and things will be updated ever so slightly. We're still getting kind of dripped the new game modes here on the beta, and we'll have access to all the modes by the end of the beta by the time it finishes up. It does end on the 20th. If you found this video useful, please consider subscribing. Leave me a comment if you have any questions about the game. I will try to answer as many questions as I possibly can. And of course, you can follow me on all the socials over here. And we'll see you at our next Madden 23 breakdown video. Thanks for watching.